YouTubers, and I guess I should say Merry Christmas because this is Christmas morning. This is not going to be in the usual genre of videos that I do. Going to be totally out of character for what you normally see on my channel, but there's a reason for that. Some of you may have noticed last fall that there was a time when I wasn't doing much videoing and posting, and it was because I had a major computer malfunction. I think my computer had a heart attack or maybe a stroke. Anyways, I got it repaired by completely wiping out everything on the disk and rebuilding it from scratch, and it's still not 100% back together, but it was also a 4.5-year-old PC. And so what happened is my family bought me all the pieces parts for a brand new PC that we can build at home to get me totally caught up to date and have a brand new PC. And my son, the computer science major, is going to be putting together my new PC. So what I'm going to do is turn over a lot of the description of this video to him, and first we'll show you the pieces parts that they bought me, and then we'll put together a new PC, so I'll have a better system for doing video editing and things like that. So stay tuned for a quick look at all the parts of my new PC when we get it all put together. Here's my son James.
Hello.
And he's going to show us what all these various things are.
We'll start with the most obvious piece. The case.
Okay, and that's just an empty box at the moment, correct?
Empty box. Well,
all right.
Minus a few of the cables that don't come out of the box. But
okay.
Completely empty, just a basic case.
Okay, what else have we got here?
That's the one part that has been handpicked by Dad himself last summer when we originally started designing this build for him. And he just couldn't make up his mind to buy it.
I hadn't made up my mind because my PC at the time was working just fine. It wasn't until September, when James was away at college, that my system up and had its stroke. So, okay, what else have we got here?
Let's start going right to left. This is the graphics card. NVIDIA 750 Ti GeForce.
Okay.
This is a very strong NVIDIA card, but relatively low-end one. Since Dad doesn't do much gaming and only would be using it for 1 or 2 games maybe, this is plenty of power, and it's NVIDIA, so that some of his video editing programs can actually use the CUDA parts of it, which should help speed up the encoding.
Okay, that's good.
We have, along with that, a very simple DVD drive.
It's a reader-writer, I presume?
Yes.
Okay.
Just something that'll be DVDs for you.
Okay.
Next up, the big addition that makes Dad's build somewhat unique from the one I did last summer, 2 summers ago actually, is a memory card reader.
Okay.
Simple 3.5 bay thing, so you can actually plug in memory cards without needing a separate converter or running through a USB cable on.
So I can use the
device.
SD card from my camera and just plug it right in.
Yep.
Okay.
Got a SanDisk solid-state drive, 240 gigabytes to help make his operating system load fast, and whatever other programs he wants to put on that one.
Okay.
16 gigabytes of Corsair RAM with fancy heatsink, because that happened to be the cheapest RAM at the time.
Okay.
We have a 1 terabyte not solid-state regular hard disk drive for all his video storage.
And that's a Seagate?
Seagate, yep.
I just wonder if that went through Banta's plant at Singapore or something like that.
We have an MSI Z97 motherboard.
Okay.
The U3 Plus is the particular model, which was chosen because I needed USB 3.0 front headers, 2. Most motherboards only come with 1. Well, I needed another one for his memory card reader.
Okay. And that one's got a bunch of them, you said?
That's got a bunch of USB 3.0 ports, period.
Okay, that's what I meant, yeah. Okay.
12 USB 3.0 ports,
Wow.
and 4 more USB 2.0s.
That's a lot of USB ports.
So all in all, you will have 15 USB ports.
16. You said
15.
12 and 4.
12, but one of them is being taken up by the rest of the memory card reader.
Oh well, I mean they're still there. They're just
you trade one USB 3.0 port for all the memory card slots.
okay. Okay.
Next up is the processor. Intel Core i7 4790. This is the top consumer grade Intel processor that does not overclock. For simplicity's sake on Dad's side.
Okay.
We have a Corsair modular power supply, 450 watts. This will be plenty of power, and it'll be nice to build with because it's modular and I don't need all the cables.
Okay. And then finally we have a copy of Windows 7 Home Premium. A couple, what was it, 2 years ago you bought multiple copies?
No, not this one. 2 or 3 years ago, Mom bought this
Okay.
to try and upgrade her old computer, and it worked. It was so-so.
Okay.
She finally downgraded that one and got a new one.
Okay. So anyways, we've got an extra copy of Windows 7 unused. So we'll be perfectly legal with our operating system. And I'm not going to go to Windows 8 or Windows 9. Maybe next spring sometime when Windows 10 finally comes out, I'll upgrade directly from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Because I don't want to have to mess around with their system that's designed for touch screens and stuff like that. Since I don't have a touch screen. So we're going to skip a couple versions, and right now I'm quite content with Windows 7.
We're going to start by setting the case down like that.
Alright.
Yeah, see, here's all the front cords. The motherboard will be going right here.
Okay. Okay, we've opened up the box, or we're opening up the box with the motherboard in it.
Sit there for now.
And there's all kinds of additional pieces, parts, and instructions.
And driver CD. That's all we really need out of that box.
And James is trying to see which of all these screws.
There's 9 screws, 2 of which are slightly different, and I want to know where those ones go.
And then this is all the little pieces that came in a plastic baggie as part of the case assembly. And while they're there, they don't they tell you what you've got, but they don't tell you where each of them goes. So we got to figure that part out.
That doesn't tell me either. So, I'm going to open this up. Get our first actual good look of the motherboard.
I'm going to get over on this side a little bit more.
Shiny. Get a bigger light on it.
Okay, well there's our motherboard, and
All the USB parts in back. There's something heavy that has to go in that I'd like to put in first.
okay, what?
Power supply.
Power supply.
Big heavy blocky thing. And I don't want to risk dropping it and crushing the motherboard.
That makes good sense.
So let me open this up. Important safety information.
Yeah.
Warranty guide. Not important. More zip ties. Lovely. Zip ties to help with cable management. These are all our cables,
Okay.
some of which we may not need. Power cord. For the
Power cord
outside
is
wall.
handy to have.
And the actual power supply itself. All nicely bubble wrapped.
Okay, here's
First
the
real
power
part-
supply sitting down in the back of the case. In the back, I guess, bottom. And he's just slid it back to the edge of the case, and we're going to tighten it in with screws.
The first real part of installation.
All right.
So
Next step is to install the motherboard, right?
Yeah, this one's actually a bit of a personal preference design. Some people like to put the processor, heatsink, memory, and all that kind of stuff on the motherboard and then plug it into put it in the case. I like putting it in the case first because then I can get the screws in easily without having to muck around the other stuff. This is the fun part of connect up the I/O shield. Little tabs that need to be caught.
Alright, after some messing around, we finally figured out how to get the motherboard to actually fit. And I understand that this case is designed for two different size motherboards. A micro ATX and an ATX. Is that the right names?
Probably. Those are the most common ones, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I've got an ATX, which is a slightly larger size.
ATX is the standard size motherboard.
Okay.
That is what all motherboards used to be. And then they decided, we want smaller ones. They came up with the micro ATX, which allows for a lot smaller case if you don't want any of the expansion that an ATX brings.
Alright, here's another lesson learned in the process. The bag with all the screws and stuff in it came with a whole bunch of all different size screws, and I can't tell by looking at it, for example, what an M3 star 5 screw is compared to an number 6-332-5 screw. So what I did, they're all different numbers. I counted out how many of each and separated them into piles by the number, and then we looked at the number of them to compare to the chart and see which ones are which and where they're used. It would have been nice if they would have put them all into separate bags. Okay, the motherboard is installed now.
We figured out which kind of screws to put in.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the pieces parts. Just give me a kind of a quick tour of what we got here.
Well, this is where the CPU will be dropped in. It's still got its nice protective cover on right now.
Okay.
This is where the memory will go.
Alright.
This is power. These are front USB 3.0 headers.
Okay.
They plug into the front. This is for hard drives and DVD drives and Blu-rays if you had that kind of thing. You don't. These are front USB 2.0 headers.
Okay.
That's a fan header.
Okay.
And the rest of these kind of depend on a lot of little other things like front lights, front power buttons, audio.
Okay. Okay.
And this is your expansion card slot, and this is where your video card will go.
Okay. So there's a tour of our motherboard on our computer, and what's next?
Next is probably going to be installing the CPU.
Okay. Well, we've taken time for a cup of coffee before going on to the next part now. So we're going to install the CPU.
Yep. This little guy is your CPU. i7. What is it, 6 cores, 8 cores? I think 4 cores with hyper-threading, so effectively 8. He will... see if I can figure out where the little notch is. Notch there, little notch there. Okay. They've got little notches, so you can only put them in one way. Take this guy off, because we don't need him anymore. Shield sits down flat. There will be a crunch. There may be a crunch. Apparently not. Good. I hate the crunch. CPU is installed.
Yeah, we certainly don't want a crunchy CPU. What's next?
Stage 1 in keeping your computer cool. Heatsink.
Okay.
I haven't actually used this one because when I built my computer, I had a custom heatsink, which got to be a mess when I realized, oh crap, I forgot X, and had to have you hold.
So this is just the standard
This
heatsink?
is stock CPU that
Okay.
Intel provides, complete with Intel sticker.
Okay, well, I'm perfectly content with.
Yeah, and since you won't be
Stock.
overclocking, this thing will be just fine.
I don't even know what overclocking is.
Some people call it free performance. It's basically running your CPU hotter than it's intended to be,
Okay.
which gives you more speed, but
I'm sure this CPU will
may
be...
or may not lower the lifespan.
Okay, now let's
But
go for...
this CPU in particular can't overclock, so
That's fine, and we don't want to try and shorten its lifespan.
all right.
Okay, so I'm going to try...
I'm going to make him install the RAM because this is a relatively easy process.
So there's a little notch that is offset so that it only fits one way, and there's 4 positions for memory. There's a little label here that says basically use the 2 black ones first. So if you're only doing 2, I guess you only use the black ones. How do I push straight down?
Push straight down. There. And you hear
there's
2
one.
clicks, that's the 2 latches on the side clicking in.
It's hard to see in there, isn't it? Okay, so there we go.
There you go.
Memory's installed. Okay, so what are you doing now? We're putting in...
I am installing your DVD drive.
Okay.
It goes up here. Slides in.
They've sure made this pretty easy. I mean,
They like to. Yeah. There.
that's
Nice,
pretty...
easy toolless installation. That's your optical disc installed, and we can install the hard drive at the same time if the bag wants to give it up.
Okay.
There we go. Probably going to want to bring the camera over this way a bit.
Okay.
Okay. We need to leave this top part open because that's where your USB thing goes in. But your hard drive can slide in. Put it down here.
Down into one of the positions that'll never actually be seen from the outside.
Ah, there's my problem. There are 2 locks for this one. I'm probably going to stand the case up after we get the first one in, so I can get at the other side again. Alright. Put that down. Lock 1. That's that side. Stand the case up so I can get at the other. Try not to catch any of the cords under it. Just not. It's just that is locked. There. That should do.
Okay.
That's your hard drive installed. Next will probably be your solid state, which is right here. Once again, you have to convince the box to give it up.
And that's what, a solid state 240 gig?
Yes.
So that'll be like the drive C,
Yep, this will be your drive C.
which will be where the system hides.
Yep.
And then,
That other one will probably be drive D, which will be for all your data.
okay, Easy to remember, D for data, C for system. Even though system isn't spelled with a C. It's spelled with an S sound.
Potential statics, yes. Let me have this. Let me have the electronic part. Nice shiny solid state. Slide right in here. Solid states are funny things because they don't actually have to be secured because there's no moving parts.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't go falling out, you're fine. And if it comes falling out, you got bigger problems.
Now he's installing the,
Memory card reader.
yeah. So I can take a little SD card out of my camera directly and just plug it in, instead of having to run cables from the camera to the computer.
This one's a bit of a new part for me because my computer, which is the only other computer I've ever built, didn't have one of these. So I'm figuring out how to install it.
And this is going in the position of what would be a
Floppy drive.
floppy 3.5-inch drive.
There we go.
Okay, so there's,
That's all the pieces that have to go in from the front.
put the front cover back on.
There you go.
So
I wonder if I can bring that forward a little. Make it flush. What's this? Oh, look at that. There. Nice and flush. And I betcha, yep, I can do the same. This one.
it's flush right now.
Yep. There we go.
This is kind of a neat little thing. It's got the SD card reader, but it's also got a micro SD card reader, so the really tiny SD cards can go in there, and a bunch of other stuff. And it's got a USB port on it.
Yep. One final piece to really put in the case, and then we have to play connect the
Then you have
pieces
to
parts.
connect all the wires.
Yep. Here you go. Have a user guide.
Thank you. I'll look at that later.
Big bag.
Well,
And this is a very expensive, important part. Okay, 2. So, set that there for a moment because we have to pop parts out of the case. Cases come with all their little expansion slots covered. Well, unfortunately, you can't use them like that, even if they're good at keeping dust out. So we have to remove these little parts. And as you can see, the graphics card has 2 little tabs. That means it takes up 2 slots. So you have to open 2 of these.
2 tabs right there.
Yep. Some And this is, I suppose, another detractor against the case. Some cases, these are held in with a screw. This one, actually, little bits of metal still attached.
Well,
You have to actually break them, and you can never reattach them.
Well,
small things, small things. It's a pretty nice case otherwise. Move cords out of the
now
way.
does that plug into two positions in the bottom or only one?
It only plugs into one, but it takes up the space.
It takes up the space of two, okay.
For the heatsink fan to keep it cool. So this will slide in like this. That plugs in. Snap, just like the memory. It's in. And
Okay.
you can secure it with two screws up
So
here.
all the major physical components are in the case. The next thing we're going to do is
Connect all the wires.
connect all the wires to the motherboard. That's a monstrous piece of wire.
Yeah, it is.
That's from the
Power supply.
power supply, okay.
I'm playing untangle all the wires so I can have some space. You guys go sit out there. And I'll do it like this. See, clip is there, clip is there. There's your main motherboard power.
Okay. Now what is that?
This is the CPU power. CPU gets its own dedicated power cord,
Okay.
which plugs in. Clip is there. Clips like that. Oh, hang on. Okay. Plugs in like this. There. This is where the zip ties come into play.
So here's where we've run into a problem. This little blue thing here is for connecting USB. And
3.0 ports. And this is the plug to connect said ports.
but this little lip right here on the case is so high that we can't go straight into
The
that plug.
which is how we have to connect that plug.
Okay, so what that means is that these USB ports on the front,
Just the two blue ones.
just the two blue ones, which are USB 3, can't work at the moment because we can't plug them in. So what we're going to do, get everything else running and leave that alone.
Because those are just ports that
Okay. Then we're going to order a card that can plug in here to one of these expansion slots that has a USB
3.0
3.0,
internal header.
okay, internal header, and we'll plug this cable into that
It'll be
instead
effectively
of the
back
blue
here.
thing down on the board, and then we'll be functional. And so he purposely bought that board because it had that thing, not realizing
That
that
the case wouldn't allow
wouldn't
it.
support it because it's recessed into the case too far. So that's a problem.
That's one of the hazards of buying online. You don't actually get to put
You
all
don't
your
get to
components
see
together.
online, and you don't know that every piece is necessarily going to work in every case, in every situation.
The motherboard fits.
All the other
parts
things fit.
They all fit. You just can't connect to them.
It's just that there's one issue of connection. Okay,
Very
well,
few people will test for that because it's such a rare case.
so means we'll have to open it up again in a few days after we get that one last part, but that's not going to be a major
That's
issue,
not
I don't
horrible.
think. And we can finish building it.
Everything else on the computer will work as
Yeah.
intended. There will be no real software changes.
But what I'm saying is we can finish building
Yep.
and fix that later. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Easily.
Then let's
That's
go ahead with
the
that.
beauty of building a desktop. You can make adjustments.
Okay. Well, we're to the point of connecting all these little teeny connector wires. Like, for example, this one, if I can get, it's upside down, but turn that around, is an HDD LED. So that's the little light that flashes on the front of the hard disk. Okay, to say that it's working. And each of those silly things has to be plugged into a separate
Right here.
place down
If you
there.
can
There's
see
a
it.
bunch of little pins.
Of which
I don't know if I can get down there. There's a bunch of little
Yeah.
pins down there to connect to, and they're hard to see, and they're even harder to get your fingers in to connect to. But we do have,
this, which tells us which little pins to connect them to.
yeah. But it's a kind of a pain to do. So
It's a pain. Yeah.
we're in the process of doing that step.
That's one annoyance. There is an optional accessory. My motherboard came with it.
This
where you
one
can- this one
didn't,
Where you
so-
can plug them all into a little connector, which has all the parts labeled, and then just plug that on,
Okay, well,
which is very nice, but
Yeah.
not essential.
this is why it's optional in this board. All right, it's taken us a lot of screwing around to figure out how to connect the cables. But everything is now in there, and it looks like a first-class mess. And quite honestly, I don't understand all of the cables, but that's why I've got an expert here. So he says everything is on the inside. We need to stand it up and plug it in and to the wall.
Time to see if it actually turns on.
Oh, that would be a good thing to do. Let's clean up this mess a little bit here and give that a shot. We're recorded. Where's the front?
The front is over there. I'm over here because we have to turn the power supply on first. First start.
Okay, so this is the magic moment. We're going to see
Stage one.
if it all works.
No explosions. It's connected to power. No explosions. This is good.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Now, stage two. Where's the
Okay.
power button? Over here. Go ahead and hit the power button.
Got to find it first, right there.
Right there. Spinning. No fires. This is good. There goes that thing. There goes that thing. I feel this one. Everything's starting. Look at the monitor. Turn the monitor on. It's always a good start. It's not like mine where it starts up and then says, nope, okay. On. Oh, I didn't.
You need to maybe plug the power into it.
Yes. Where did I put that one? There we go. Monitors need power too. There we go. Power to the monitor. On. There we go.
So we've got fancy little blue lights and white lights and
CPU or memory changed. Please enter setup to configure your system. Yes, of course. This is what I want. F1.
so we're off to a good start.
It recognizes that there are strange things in it. This is good. MSI! No, I wasn't fast enough. Oh, delete. Does that work? Yes, it does.
So you have to hit.
It went too fast. I wasn't fast enough to get in the BIOS. It tried to boot an operating system, which doesn't exist because there's nothing on those hard disks. MSI. Here we go. You dead mouse. Not dead. I think the
Do you want
mouse is
another
dead.
mouse?
Yeah, I can run with this. It's holding. Temperature looks fine.
So this is all information about the motherboard
This
itself.
is the BIOS.
Okay.
A lot fancier than old ones you're probably used to. Let's try this. Oh, look at this. Fancy graphic. I can't use the mouse. A mouse would probably be good for exploring anything
Okay.
hard in this. But
Should we go get a mouse?
motherboard settings. Here we go. Boot. Let's make sure I get the boot mode order set properly. What is this?
All of these things are things that normally would be done by HP or Dell or Lenovo or whoever you normally buy one of these from if you're not doing it yourself, right?
Yep. Usually, they're running. They will run under whoever's motherboard, but they'll have the manufacturer's.
Settings. But the average consumer never sees this stuff, right?
No, they'll see a flash up usually of whoever made the computer, where we see MSI. But
They'll never go into this stuff.
hardly ever. If they are, they're more advanced and they're looking to play around with their computer. But the average consumer never looks at this.
Okay, it's turned on. It wants to boot, but we're not quite ready because we
don't have anything in it for it to boot.
We're gonna-
64-bit Windows. And a little semi-seldom known trick, you can install onto a blank computer with an upgrade version of Windows. Windows themselves will even tell you how to do this. You install Windows once, it might whine. You install Windows again over itself. Voila, it's upgrading, and Windows no longer cares. Close that. Go look at the...
It says boot and select proper boot device, reboot and select proper boot device, or insert boot media and selected boot device and press any key.
press key.
We'll press the any key. I remember 30 years ago when I first worked with Computerland selling PCs, and when did IBM come out with their PC? About 1981 or 82. We used to have people actually come in and ask, where is the any key on the keyboard? Because the system would come up and say, press any key. And they would look and say, I can't find the any key. It's amazing how much people didn't know about computers. So, we're installing Windows. This is going to be a long process, I think. So we're just waiting on Windows to install. What are we up to? 77%? Expanding programs. 79. This is a slow process. Well, here we are a day later, and the computer's all put together. It's pretty well functioning. I'm in the process of transferring my data from the old computer to the new computer. So I just thought I'd show you the little setup I've got here. I managed to squeeze them both onto one desktop. And that was a chore in and of itself, but here's my old computer and keyboard. That's the old one over there. The new computer is hiding back here behind the screen. I've got I had two screens hooked up to one computer before, and right now I'm with one on each, and I've borrowed an extra keyboard. And I'm using the home network to transfer the data from the old system to the new. So it's working, but there's more to do yet to finish setting up. Anyways, I'm going to end the video with this little clip here and get back to finishing my setup. But thanks for watching. I know this is very unstandard for my type of video. I'll get back to a weaving video or a cooking video in the very near future. I've already got some ideas. In fact, I'm in the planning stages of a weaving project right now, and I think I'll be showing that as either the next or shortly after that video. So if you're a subscriber, thanks again for being a subscriber to my channel. If you're not and you like my videos, especially the weaving and cooking ones and travel ones, not the computer put together ones, if you like them, I'd appreciate you subscribing. Thanks much for watching, and we'll see you the next time around on the YouTube. Bye bye.